Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pearce. This is a US political update, very important political update. Who knew that we would be concentrating so much on a congressional, a representative district Republican primary election? What this means is we have the midterms coming up. Every 2 years there are full elections in the United States for the House of Representatives lawmakers, all 430 odd of them. And in the midterm election between the two presidential elections, you have the primary elections before the actual elections in any given district. So you'll have a primary to have the Democrats select which candidate they're going to put forward, and the Republicans having a primary election to select which candidate they're putting forward. So really, representatives, lawmakers in the House of Representatives are always campaigning. Because if you have a full-on election every 2 years, you need to be campaigning for your primary election. This is now 7 months before the actual election. It's just a never-ending set of campaigns and fundraising. Anyway, talking about fundraising, we have Thomas Massie as the incumbent Republican representative in the 4th Kentucky district, being primaried by an absolute nobody, and the nobody just winning. And the nobody just won because they were backed by maybe as much as $38 million worth of Jewish and pro-Trump lobby money. AIPAC and other Jewish Republican lobbying groups put a bunch of money into this one. Why? Because Thomas Massie is one of the few Republicans who, together with Khanna from the Democrats, had put together a bill to release the Epstein Files. Trump does not want the Epstein Files released. Israel really doesn't want them released. So you've got to wonder what the connections are to Israel, to Mossad, to the Israeli government, to any other major player in Israeli politics. But they have put, both teams, Trump and Israel, have put a ton of money, record-breaking money into this, and they have won. Money has won the day for the interests who do not want the Epstein Files to be released. This is an absolutely earth-shattering, I think, primary election. An election that shouldn't really matter as much as this one really does. Anyway, as we look at the details, or before we get there, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Keep yourselves ahead of the loop. Click on that bell icon and select all rather than personalized, and you'll get notifications of any content that I bring out. Okay, let's go to the details. So here we have it. I mean, I think this sums it up. That cap on the screen pretty much sums up what many people are now thinking. And this is causing a huge fracture in the MAGA world, because you'll have a lot of Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, two female lawmakers. Marjorie Taylor Greene's now been hounded out, really, of Congress, who were supporting Thomas Massie's bill for the transparency of the Epstein Files. Lauren Boebert is next on the list for Trump, and she will be primaried, no doubt, out of office. And it looks like this is all an attempt to hush the Epstein Files, and therefore to make paedophilia okay now. Just insane. But it's a fracture in the MAGA sphere, in the MAGA world, where you are getting Tucker Carlson, you're getting Alex Jones, you're getting a lot of people coming out and saying, this is not cool, actually. Yeah. Right, so the results were, in the end, I think it was 54 to 46. It was an all-right sized victory. It was very close. It was looking in the run-up to the actual election day. But in the end, it was older people, boomers, that won it. If it was younger people, then Massie would have won. Without the boomers, Massie would have won. So it's looking like, yeah, as you can see here, boomers really won at 65 plus for Gowrine, who was running against Massie, and that that says quite a lot. I think probably tells you a lot about where they get their information from. I think Fox News doubled up behind Gilroy and Trump and other sort of media associated with younger people, probably led to Thomas Massie being more popular. And indeed, Thomas Massie was easily going to win this primary until they dropped $35 million on the opposition, on Gilroy. Thomas Massie was overwhelming favourite to win re-election, and then the Israel lobby dropped $35 million against him. It should not be possible to buy elections like this, but that's what happened. Here we have Rogue Khanna, who produced that transparency bill with Thomas Massie, giving his tuppence.
My good friend Thomas Massie lost tonight. I'm angered by the smears on his character. He lost because he had the guts to take on the Epstein class. He lost because he had the guts to stand up against the war in Iran. He worked with me to pass the most consequential and popular piece of bipartisan legislation in recent history in the Epstein Transparency Act. Many young voters under 50 voted for him. He was winning them by over 30 points. And today I say you may not have a home in the Trump coalition, but there is a new generation of populist Democrats, and we welcome you to help us change this country, change the rotten system, and have a politics that puts the working class ahead of the Epstein class.
And you're going to see a lot of the use of the term Epstein class. Honestly, this is, I think, not an inflection point necessarily, but an important point in, I think, defining the next 7 months and the next few years of American politics, where the Epstein files might be resurrected. I mean, they seem to have disappeared from the agenda given the Iran war, and that's exactly what the intention was, at least partly, in the Iran conflict. It's all about distraction away from the Epstein files. The Epstein files clearly should be and would be the end of Trump. There's clearly enough in them that ends Trump's presidency. And that's the desperation that the Trump team and the Israel team have in keeping the Epstein files under wraps. Here is Thomas Massie on Tucker Carlson. I don't know when this was recorded, but he's going to town here on Trump.
There's three women, Nancy Mace, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Lauren Boebert, who signed their names on that discharge petition and all suffered. Marjorie practically gave up her political career over this.
Yes, she did.
She and her children got death threats.
Oh, I know.
Over this. Not from the left, from the right. And
she went to President Trump and said, one of my children is getting death threats. And he said, that's your fault.
Yeah, despicable. He also told her that if she insisted on following through with this, she was going to hurt his friends. She told me the day he told her that.
Hurt whose friends?
The President Trump's friends, his friends. And I suppose some of them have been hurt. Howard Lutnick was shown to be a bald-faced liar, right? Yeah. And it turns out that John Paulson, one of the 3 billionaires who've put money into MAGA Kentucky, was in Epstein's phone book, but also was implicated in these files as doing a fundraiser and reaching out to Jeffrey Epstein to get money from him to honor Howard Lutnick. My hat's off to Marjorie for taking on those threats. Lauren Boebert, they took her over to the Situation Room, right? Like, this is where, if they're trying to kill or capture Osama bin Laden, this is where they are at the White House. They took her into the Situation Room and tried to whip her into taking her name off of the discharge petition.
Over Epstein.
Over Epstein, yep. And then the president vetoed a bill that would have brought water to a large portion of Colorado.
Over Epstein.
Over Epstein. And this isn't even, at this point, it's not just about Lauren Boebert. Why are people in Colorado deprived of water? Because their representative wants to expose a sex trafficking ring.
I mean, none of this makes any sense at all because it's a losing issue for Trump. But when it comes to Epstein, it's like, no. And it does raise questions about, like, how did Epstein die and who signed off on that? And why was Epstein rearrested, actually, for crimes he'd already been convicted of and brought back from France to the United States and then gets murdered in prison less than 2 months later? Like, what is that?
The people who are funding the ballroom, the people who are funding the arch, the people who are funding the rebranding of the Kennedy Center, these are the people who are also funding my opponent. These are the people who have the ear of the president. These are the people who are dominating our foreign policy decisions. They're the billionaires. And these are also the same people who are in the Epstein files, by large part, or their friends are. Their social
I just want to say stop. And I want everyone to just stop and rewind the tape when you said that. Okay, maybe just answer the question.
I think I did. I tried to answer the question.
Okay. So that's pretty earth-shattering, and it's nothing we don't know necessarily, but the money surrounding the Epstein files, or the moneyed people surrounding the Epstein files, those people have the ear of the president. These people are defining foreign policy, defining use of money. They're like bribing Trump with these arches and ballrooms and things in order to get Trump to do what they want. So as much as there might be damaging content in the Epstein files for Trump, you could make a very solid case that the big damage gets done to people who are just as powerful, it seems, who operate in the shadows. Now, I don't want to sound too conspiratorial. I'm not a fan of conspiracy theory thinking, but I think this has gone beyond conspiracy theory because the evidence is there. You don't drop $35 million on a Republican primary election unless you've got, one, a load of money and a load of power, and two, something you want to hide in and you want to keep hidden in the Epstein files. That's why you primary against Massie, and that is what has happened. Just wow. You know, you got Alex Jones, and I'm not going to play you 7 minutes 30 of Alex Jones going off on one. I mean, he's a wingnut. I mean, Thomas Massie, outside of a couple of things like anti-Iran war, anti-debt ceiling for the US, and covering up the Epstein files, like generally he's a staunch Republican who has voted massively in favor of everything Donald Trump has ever wanted. He's just, right on a few things over here that has caused him to lose his seat. Alex Jones, I don't agree with him with anything apart from his newfound criticism of Trump. Stopped clock is right twice a day. And this idea that you got the Epstein class. He says, my response to the historic foreign interference in the Kentucky congressional race of Thomas Massie. Tonight, the Epstein class is celebrating their defeat of the populist Thomas Massie. In the end, they will realize they won a battle, but ultimately lost the war. He just going hard there and talking again about this idea of the Epstein class. Here we have CNN's analysis of the race.
He said the Epstein files, something that went from seeming like a far-fetched dream to a reality. And he referenced that in his speech tonight. I want you to listen to what he told his supporters.
We need basic decency. That's what the Epstein Files Transparency Act was all about. By the way, today is the 6-month anniversary of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. We've taken out 24 CEOs, an ambassador, a prince, a prime minister, a minister of culture, and that was just 6 months.
He's not wrong. So these files have been hugely controversial, but consequential is the word I want to say. And there is no surprise that very important people, very rich and powerful people, want to stop this project of leading to transparency for the Epstein files.
7 months left in Congress.
That is important.
First, what do you make of his loss tonight and what's to come potentially?
Thomas is a good friend, so I'm saddened just on a personal level. I was very angered over the last couple of days seeing the smears on his character. He's a good man. He put his career at risk to pass the most popular and consequential bipartisan legislation in the Epstein Transparency Act, probably in modern history. It pulls off the charts, and it was to hold the elites accountable for treating young girls as dispensable. And he lost his seat because he stood up against the Iran war. And the lesson really is that people who are against the Epstein class and against this war don't have a place in the Trump coalition. And look, he was winning voters under 45 by 30%. And if they don't have a place in the Trump coalition, there's a new movement that thinks this system is rotten and that wants to build for the working class against the Epstein class for Team America, and they're welcome to join this new movement.
So again, yeah, Ro Khanna taking advantage of that to appeal to some of those voters. Let's go back to CNN, but just in a different segment. This is David Axelrod.
Because he's an epically unpopular president who is popular among his own tribe. And his own tribe is not big enough to win elections. He's got a 23 or something % approval rating among independents. He's got virtually no support among Democrats. And it's in some ways it reflects the way he's governed. Donald Trump has governed to be president of the Republican Party. To be president of MAGA. This country is bigger than that. So if you're in a swing district, if you're in a swing state, you're kind of in a bind here.
Really, obvious but important point there that he is ruling for very few. I would say for the elites, but actually for the opposite of the elites, the kind of working class MAGA who have really gone to town in supporting Trump through thick and thin and are holding on now. That's who he's appealing to. It's a cult of personality. And then those moneyed elites that operate at the opposite end of that kind of demographic spectrum, he's doing something for them too. But for the vast majority of Americans, Trump is not ruling on behalf of them. And he is going to find it difficult going forward in the midterms to, I think, to do well at all. So then he cheats. Then he gets the Supreme Courts of Virginia and the National Supreme Court to work in his favor. He gets states to gerrymander because people are afraid of him. They will not stand up to him. People who do, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie, they lose their jobs. They lose their seats. So this tells any other Republican that is thinking about voting against Trump that they can't do that because he has ultimate control and he has the money to dispense at risk of them losing their seats. So yeah, and just on a side note here, the acting Attorney General, Todd Blanche, had suggested that he had met with the survivors. Survivors have come out and said Todd Blanche is lying, that he's never met with them. He's not met with any of us. And they signed a letter here. Just the Epstein Files is one big hot mess for the administration. And they are trying to do anything they possibly can to distract away from attention on the Epstein Files. And now they have the scalp of Thomas Massie in Kentucky's 4th District, that they are probably thinking, hey, we can get through this. And it's going to be interesting to see what Congress does concerning the Epstein Files, because there's only the Democrats now that appear to be in any position and have any willingness to do something about it, because 2 of the 4 Republicans have fallen by the wayside. It's only Nancy Mace, I presume she's still in position, and Lauren Boebert. We haven't had their primaries yet, but you do wonder what's going to happen with them. Okay, that's enough from me. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.